back to another episode of the Nebulos Entertainment Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about narrative. Our goals moving forward with Project NightOwl being a second side project. I think this is the first time Eric and I have been back in the saddle together in a couple weeks. I think it's been four episodes ago. So yeah, we're going to get back into the swing of things here. So it's going to be more, I would say, more creative, more Eric heavy tonight, discussing the game development, but I'm sure I will have some input somewhere. So, Mr. Lund, would you like to take it away?
Sure. So, we've talked about in the past just game development in the pipeline, and it takes a long time to develop a game, as pretty much any developer will tell you. So, an issue and a question we're constantly seeming to ask is how can we continue to maintain outputting creative content while a game is in a stage where it's nothing to show, while you're working on game design documents or preliminary engine setup or anything like that. So with that, we started to look at expanding our creative roster, and with the first IP we have with Stormward Sales is in, and this Project Aurora will be in. All those stories revolve around certain characters and a certain environment and just a cohesive world. And we wanted to create something new and different, and for that we dreamt up what we're calling Project NightOwl. And that is all new characters, new stories, new worlds. And I think that that's a good way for us to sort of just expand on fleshing out our skill sets and, getting more creatively skilled, for lack of using the same word twice. So, yeah, any thoughts on that, Cam? What is something that you see as a benefit of fleshing out more IPs?
We don't lose our mind over one. I think that's... I mean, we are losing our minds. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm sitting here. I can't even think right now on this podcast. Today's been a day. But having the freedom, and I think the fact that we're able to expand our outreach from one IP that looks one creative way to a second IP that looks like almost the opposite. I would say, it's pretty different. The sky then becomes the limit for what we can create in terms of aesthetics, right? And they're not gonna per se, maybe flow into one another because they are so different. But it helps reach a different audience. While, if we play it correctly, we'll be able to reach a different audience while being able to bring over, the audience and the following that we've had from the first IP into the second one. Right? So it broadens our scope and doesn't necessarily limit what we're capable of. But I will say with that, it's not always, a good thing to do more than what you're capable of, because it is a struggle. Game development in a whole is a struggle. So staying in your lane is definitely a good place to start, but experimenting outside of that, I would also say, is going to be very beneficial, because you might find skills, you might find stories or adventures or genres that you enjoy more because you were able to step outside your comfort zone a little bit of what you're used to creating.
Definitely. And on that note, I think, sort of the purpose of this next IP is to branch out and experiment with different means of storytelling. So instead of just being game focused, we're working on a few different ideas for ways we can get stories and experiences essentially out that people could take part in earlier. We're trying to figure out something that we can do that doesn't I would say, impede our abilities to work on the current game that we're working on, but it's just a way to explore, like you said, different stories and different genres to see what, you know, if it lands. And I think it's a good thing for creative block for me specifically, because it allows me to, with Stormward Sails and Project Aurora, there's a lot of tropical, it's a lot of bright vibrancy stuff, a lot of very cartoony. But with going into a different IP, I'm not locked to those design criteria. So I can, I can do a dark story if I want. I can do something more mysterious or realistic, or, I think it just allows my brain to kind of shift out of that tropical cartoony gear, and that lets it basically rest. So when I come back to Aurora, whether it's a day later, a couple hours later, I can approach things with fresh eyes. So, and I think that's going to be the case for everybody, with storytelling, and you and I sort of bouncing story ideas off of one another for both of these. I think it's been really great for both of us to go between the two, because we can totally separate what we're doing and say, okay, now we're focusing on this one for a little bit, let's have some ideas, and then we go back to Aurora and it's, oh, wouldn't it be neat if this character experienced this, or whatever it would be. So
right,
I think it's just beneficial.
It's hard to force a mood. So one of our IPs, like Eric was talking about, like super happy, super vibrant, just super colorful, right? Project NightOwl, given the name already, the aesthetics are going to be a little bit darker. And this plays into the creative side heavily, because like think about like who you are as an individual and who you are as a person, right? Anything in life. Nobody is happy and colorful 24/7. Everybody has their demons, they're fighting their skeletons, they're tired, they're worn out, like their mood shifts. And it happens, right? So like my point to this is, if you're sitting in a room where maybe it's raining out, it's dark and windy, and you had a bad day, it is going to be very hard for you to write and be creative on, a beach setting with, waves crashing, and it's a bright sunny day and things are good, and you're trying to create for this environment that is so vibrant and so happy all the time, but you're in a dark place, right? So that's the point that I'm trying to make with, like, it's hard to force a mood, right? So like we're kind of at opposite spectrums with these projects, and a lot of it comes down to like where Eric is mentally, and maybe the day he's having, maybe the mood, what it is outside. If it's just a happy and bright day or a dark and stormy day, like Pennsylvania weather adjusts pretty significantly, but it allows his creative shift towards whatever he's feeling. So he's not constantly trying to be like, as much as I would love everybody to be happy 24/7, if we're being realistic, it's just not going to happen. Okay, so like it's hard for Eric to write. I'd be the same way. It'd be hard for me to write and produce for a happy-go-lucky story when I'm in a terrible place. Or the mood and the aesthetic outside is very dark. So I'd rather write for that, and maybe some of my best storytelling comes out, for that dark aesthetic and the dark game in Project NightOwl when I'm in that place, right?
Right.
So yeah,
I want to put a little asterisk on it. It's not. I just want to clarify. It's not like we're only working on NightOwl when we're having dark, crappy days. It is just sort of a way to, like he's saying, it's just a way to allow yourself to be in whatever writing mood you feel.
Well, you pull inspiration, right? Like inspiration comes from many things. It can come from your mood and how you're feeling, right? So yeah, to Eric's point, we do work on a bunch of different things, but if maybe we're having a bad day or something, and like the only thing that makes you feel better is diving into that story, that darker story, and maybe creating something for Project NightOwl that isn't as related to Stormward Sails. So yeah, I think that sums it up pretty well. I'm sure people listening, I'm sure that they're the same way. You know, they're probably sit
Yeah.
there and think about it like right now. Like, okay, have you ever tried to force yourself, you know, in a dark place to write in a happy place, or in a happy place to write in a dark place? Like, it's very difficult. Can it be done? Of course it can be done. Will it be your best work? I don't know. Maybe not. You know, probably not. So, just think about it. You know, I would tell everybody to think about it. Because it flows both ways, right? Happy, sad, sad, happy, mad, angry. I don't know. There's a gazillion emoticons these days. What are you feeling?
Exactly.
Heart-shaped cat eyes, or what? Who knows? I can't keep up with it all. But yeah, did you have anything else that you wanted to discuss with Project NightOwl?
No, I think we just want to like let people know that there are things going on outside of Aurora. So if they're not seeing a ton of updates on Aurora, it's not because it's not happening. It's just at a phase where there's a lot of back end setting up going on. So we're trying to balance that out with
Trying to
providing
balance
more
it
creative
out.
content.
Yeah, build the community. Like, it's very difficult. Like, and it's hard to just get discovered. And creating content is a full-time job. It is a full-time job. There's a lot of talented people out there that just won't get found or will never get found, and that's just because it's very hard to like catch a break and and to get yourself out there. But you gotta post. I hate social media. Eric hates social media. I don't know if anybody on the Nebulos team actually likes social media, but we do it to get eyes on the Nebulos stuff because we're proud of the Nebulos stuff. But yeah, it's I guess along those lines, we have the Patreon, right? So there's a lot of updates regarding Project NightOwl and other content, like Eric was saying, with Project Aurora and what we've been doing on our Patreon page, and that starts at literally $1 a month to get access to all of the daily dev journals and behind the scenes look at some projects. Yeah, man. I think the Patreon's done very well. We do podcast early access. We have obviously the dev journals. Do some polling, some behind the scenes. We're sending out artwork, prints, and postcards. So there's a lot going on, and I'm happy with where that's at, content wise. But yeah, we're getting better with that. So, do you have anything else you'd like to add to this?
No, I think that about covered it.
Sweet, man. Well, we appreciate everybody taking the time to listen and or watch. If you'd like to support us, as mentioned, with game development, with these worlds that we're creating, you can do so on Patreon, $1 a month. That link will be in the description below. You can also follow us on social media if you'd rather just do that at Nebulos_ENT. We have it all. Except for TikTok. That's a whole other story. If you want to listen to that reason, you can kind of go into... We did an episode on building community, and we dove a lot into TikTok as well. So